All right, thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Goffstown School Board meeting. I would call this meeting at 7:15. We do invite the public to call for public comment at 603-766-5646. Enter participant code 685562 if you wish to make a public comment at the beginning of the meeting. Please wait for the chair's instructions and then press star 9. Your microphone will be unmuted and you will be directed to state your name and address prior to making your public comment. You can also email your public comment to denise.morin@sau19.org prior to 3 o'clock of the meeting date. Please indicate public comment, June 7th, 2021, Goffstown School Board meeting in the subject line and include your name and address and limit your comments to no more than 500 words. The board reserves the right to read your public comment during the meeting. However, any public comment will be included in the official meeting minutes. The board meeting can be viewed on GTV 16 on demand and will also be streamed live on the GTV YouTube channel. We do have 2 school board members calling in tonight. When I call your name, just say if you're here and you're alone. Dan Cloutier.
I am here and I am alone.
Thank you. Janelle O'Brien.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Thank you. And if everybody could stand and say the pledge with me.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So we have correspondence.
Just a few things this evening, and I think Mrs. Morin included the packet in everyone's individual board packet. We had a couple of great stories of some of our student athletes, and I would point you to the I'm sure she would not like me embarrassing, but the one of the baseball players, that's Braden Lambert. So I didn't know if people had seen this in the paper. That's Wendy's son, who is a really talented catcher and has been a really great baseball player for a long time. The next one, we were really pleased and wanted to share with the board that Cheryl Pratt, who is our lead auditor from Plodzik and Sanderson, received the prestigious award this year, the Alexander Blastos Distinguished Service Award from the New Hampshire School Business Association, so that's a nice honor. Cheryl has been with Plodzik and Sanderson since 1991, and as we all know, she's been an incredible resource for us from an accounting perspective. There were a couple of updates from the School Boards Association, one pertaining to remote meetings, which doesn't really pertain to us. And then they let you know that they have not raised their fees for next year. And that was it for correspondence.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Accommodations, good news. Go ahead, Caleb. Oh, a microphone.
You could just grab that one, Caleb, for now.
First, I'd like to commend everyone who took part in the dance gala. It just aired on June 5th, GTV. There were also people watching it live. It was our first live show this year. I thought it came out really spectacular. All the dancers did a great job, and particularly the students who actually choreographed a majority of the pieces there. And I just think it came out really well. I'd also like to commend Jennifer Kulik, Antonio Capos, and Maya Thomas. They all placed above their seeds at MOCs at Sanborn, also on June 5th. And Antonio actually placed 2nd overall in the shot put, so very good job.
Nice. Thank you, Caleb. Anybody else? Accommodations, good news? Go ahead, Ellen.
Yes. The past month and a half or so, I've heard from a couple of parents, and this weekend someone sought me out, parent of 2 Mountain View kids, and she asked if I would share with the board that she does watch our meetings and how much she appreciates the work the board does. Greatly appreciates the kind of questions and comments and things that are said at our board, and how much she appreciates our superintendent and what he's done for and with our school district this past year. And I said I would pass that on to us in the commendations.
Thank you, Ellen. Nice to hear. Anyone else? Jenny?
I'd just like to commend the people who put on, and the students, the academic awards ceremony the other night. I wasn't able to attend, but I heard that it went very well, and that it was very nice that it was outside. It went very well, and was appreciated by all.
Thank you.
So, good job, students.
Anyone else? Accommodations, good news, Shane?
I just want to commend all of our high school seniors that'll be graduating.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you all, a lot of hard work, and good luck in the next chapter.
Yeah, that's Thursday,
Yeah.
coming up fast.
Yeah.
And beautiful weather.
Yes, thank goodness. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. Public comment. Scott, do we have anybody
We
on
do
the
not.
bridge? No emails, Denise? All right, so the next is approving the May 17th school board minutes. Did everybody take a look? Did anybody see anything?
I'll move to approve the minutes of May 17th.
All right, by Ellen, do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Shane. Any other discussion?
Just a notice to the chair.
Yes.
I would like to bring some of the meeting minutes under old business, under option B, if we could, because there's something a little confusing. And as stated, I think it's correct. I just want to make sure that we circle back and get it correct. So if I could add a subsection B to our old business to talk about our meeting minutes, specifically policy JFABB. As it's documented, we've actually increased the number of students to 6 under that policy as these meeting minutes are documented, and I don't think that was our intent. So I want to make sure that we do discuss that under old business.
This is Janelle. I have just one thing on the minute.
Go ahead, Janelle.
Just the Dan Goodyear, right at the beginning of the minute, of the board members present. That's all I got.
Dan Cloutier.
Yep. Okay. So Jared, I'm sorry, I'm confused by what, so you want it changed because of the way it was written?
No. So I'd like, under old business, we have A. I would like
Yep.
to add a B to talk specifically about our meeting minutes. Because I believe our meeting minutes are accurately reflected. However, I think what we've documented in the intent is not what we wanted. So I'm just asking for a additional old business to review our meeting minutes, specifically JFABB.
Okay.
So, Jared, you're not changing the minutes?
No, I think that they accurately reflect what we've talked about. I just think that we misapplied something.
Okay. All right, but everything is. good.
Everything is
Okay.
absolutely as it should be.
You're right,
All right, so I
Jared.
have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny? Yes. Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Abstaining, Dan Gludier wasn't there.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Abstain.
And Heather, yes. So we have 2 abstentions and the rest, yes. Motion passed. All right, moving forward, we're gonna get on to our committee reports. Scott? Manifest?
Sure, I wasn't sure, did you want to?
We're gonna
You wanna-
do them
yeah.
in the beginning of new business.
Okay. So you have your manifest before you, and let me just get to you have a manifest before you of $2,199,137.01. Of your major items, payroll, tax, and benefits is almost $1.9 million. Your special ed activity is a little over $88,000. Your general expenses, a little over $98,500, and you have your food service. We have some commodities and food that we purchased, a little over $8,600. Going back to your general expenses, you're going to note that we have the second half of your Mountain View Middle School resource officer. You should keep in mind that the MOU with the town states that we pay for the entry level cost of an officer and associated benefits, but because of the wage increases due to the last collective bargaining agreement, as long as health insurance costs, that number has gone up. And then you're seeing just this one other one that I wanted to make mention of, and that is the last one, Granite State Plumbing. We have boilers here at the high school where our maintenance technician, who is HVAC, qualified, there are certain ones that he cannot do. And in that one, we did use Granite State Plumbing, but the vast majority, the preventative maintenance that we're doing in all of our buildings is done by John. And, but this is one where he does not have the skill set to do those types of boilers. So just wanted you to know that. And then other than that, I don't, it's the same ones you see kind of every month, especially on the special ed side of things. So are there any questions at all?
All right, seeing no questions, we'll need a motion.
So moved. Do you already, I'll say the whole thing.
Yeah.
I move the approval of the manifest of June 7th in the amount of $2,199,137.01.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
By Jared. Any other discussion before I do roll call? Okay, seeing none. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle? Janelle? Dan?
Yes.
Janelle, are you there? All right.
Is
Ellen?
she still on the line, Scott?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather? Yes? Is she,
No.
she's off?
She dropped off.
All right. So, motion passed. Janelle is off.
Next, you should be receiving on a monthly basis she's back on now.
She's back, okay.
You should be seeing on your, in your emails, your monthly expenditure and revenue reports. I'm gonna talk a little bit about that later in the evening in terms of our fund balance discussion, but just rest assured that our expenditures and our revenues are tracking as planned, meaning that I am expecting, when we set our budget in terms of anticipated use of unassigned fund balance, which is comprised of revenues in excess of what we projected, as well as an underspend of the budget, we're where we should be. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but you do have those reports, and if you do have any questions about that, please let me know. As I've stated throughout the course of this year, there are many lines. When you look at, we have 1,600 lines in the budget. There are many that are overexpended due to COVID, where we had to spend money, let's just say, on software licenses versus textbooks. So we have made those balances throughout the year. If we did budget transfers in every one of them, that's all we'd be doing at school board meetings. So I've been trying to look at it on a function level and on an account level, as opposed to on an individual line level this year, due to all the changes. So that's it for the expenditure and revenue reports. For FY22 transportation challenges, I wanted to let you know that I've been having ongoing discussions with our transportation providers, and we are in no better shape today than when we were at the beginning of the pandemic. We still have bus driver shortages, and there are not many applicants coming forward to fulfill bus driver responsibilities. So that's a plug for anyone who's watching right now, who might want to be a bus driver. We desperately use you. What that means is that we have had challenges this year where we've had difficulties transporting some kids from here. There's one run for the Manchester School of Technology where we've been having issues. We couldn't get a bus, so we've had staff transport students over, a very small amount of them, but that problem is not going away. And Joyce, I'm sorry, I should have spoke to you. You're hearing that now, but that's the challenge. So the next one is Mountain View Athletics and some of our co-curriculars, where we did not provide transportation for Mountain View Athletics, and as it stands right now, next year we would not be providing transportation to Mountain View Athletics because there's not enough bus drivers. Many of the drivers, we only had a few that would do those types of runs, and they are not driving buses. So they're scrambling to try to get folks to take our kids to co-curricular type activities. And then the other one that we have is midday kindergarten transportation, and right now we've been kind of cobbling that together through using Durham, which is our special ed provider, as well as the Goffstown Truck Center. So that's another one that we're going to have to kind of figure out. So the law requires us to provide midday transportation to our kindergarten kids, and we're working on that one. The reason why I put this on the agenda is that I want to know if you want me to explore some alternative options. One would be reaching out to other transportation providers, school transportation providers, meaning that they're not the ones that we have right now, but if they can't fulfill these runs, then I would have to look at other ones. The second would be the possibility of us renting 12-passenger vans or leasing them on an annual basis. And I've already I've done some preliminary work on it, so our insurance carrier, other school districts are doing this, they do insure them. We would have to talk about some more specifics in terms of that, in terms of compensation of drivers. There's a whole host of different things, but that might be a solution to some of our issues with smaller teams. If you have a golf team, then putting them all on the bus to go over to Stonebridge is kind of easy, and the coach would then do the driving. I will let you know that the union gave us tentative approval to proceed in that direction if we were to do it for 1 year, pending further, see how it went. But so that's an option, and because we're in the situation that we're in, I kind of need some direction from the board. If you want me to then work with Justin Hopter, our AD, to put a lot more information before you at your next school board meeting, we will do that. If it's something that you want nothing to do with in terms of leasing vans, then let me know and I'll let that issue go. But if you do want more information, if you're inclined to make decisions relative to that at your next meeting, then we will scramble and get all the information to you for the next meeting. If you were to do that, we would be in a position to lease these vans for August, which we would need them. It's not beginning of the school year. It's literally like 2 weeks before we start.
Jenny?
Scott, is it possible to, instead of getting a whole new school bus provider, just getting services from another provider?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. No, we're not getting rid of, we're just supplementing.
It's just supplementing,
So I might need to get like another company to give me 2 or 3 buses. I will tell you that I'm not overly optimistic of that.
I know.
Because everyone's in the same boat.
Right.
But I have to, we have to certainly, that's another way of exploring it. But the whole thing about leasing vans, other school districts have gone this route because they've had no other option. So they in some school districts pay their coaches to drive, others don't, but that would have to really be fully vetted. But
And there are policy implications for that as well. So
we would have to move fast on this.
Well, move fast, but move fast in a thoughtful, deliberate, careful manner. So I don't want to expedite something and realize that we went too fast and didn't take care of certain policy considerations that need to be done. So I think Scott's point is a good one. We continue to struggle with busing and with transportation. There are also runs, for example, we have practices occurring for multiple sports over at Lions Field. We rely on kids to get themselves there, which is something that always makes me nervous. So I think that there are some other benefits that we could realize. But, again, we just have to be careful. We have to be thoughtful. We have to make sure we take care of all due diligence that we need.
Now, Scott, leasing a van, that would not help with midday kindergarten. That would just help with sports and co-curricular at the middle school, correct?
Yes.
So we would still need to find someone to do that.
I do not believe that we could use the rental van option for the pickup and drop off of that. I don't think we're allowed to do that. But I do think that we could do we could address the middle school problem, potentially the high school co-curricular problem, and potentially the MST issue, but not the little kids.
So we would need to find someone.
Gotta find somebody, yeah.
So do we want to have information for both lease and any bus companies that could help out for the next one? Jenny?
Well, I have a question, and it's like way out in left field, but I'm just gonna throw it out anyway. We've had luck with getting substitutes by increasing their pay. Is there any way that we could work with a bus company to help them increase what they pay bus drivers, so that we could get some bus drivers just for us? Any way we could work out a solution like that so that we would, entice more bus drivers for Goffstown School District so that we could get our busing?
I would
under
say
control?
possibly. We have to be mindful that we have rates that are locked into our existing contract.
Yeah.
It's possible that we could consider the athletics runs as something separate, as an add-on. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I certainly think all these things are appropriate, but then the other thing that you have to understand is that there, like, at some point, like at the Mountain View situation, we didn't provide transportation, so parents had to do that. And they were able to do it. It's not optimal, right? But they were able to do it.
Yeah.
So you have to then balance that versus, do you want to spend an extra X thousands of dollars more to pay drivers? And there is a point of where you might want to consider it, and then there's a point where, no, then either let the parents drive. I mean, at some point,
Yeah.
I think it's a little different on the co-curricular side than it is on, you know, midday kindergarten transportation.
Well, because you have a legal mandate.
Yeah, like this one, you don't have, there's no legal mandate to provide co-curricular transportation,
But
so.
this year was kind of an odd year too, in that, parents have had a little more leeway to get out of work and do things and whatever. I wonder if that's going to be ongoing.
Yeah, I don't.
I would agree with Jenny. I
Yeah.
think it's been an incredible hardship for a lot of families. I think some people have flexibility in their jobs, and there are a lot of people who don't. And I think we always have to be mindful and protect the people that have the least amount of flexibility in their jobs, because those are the families. I wouldn't want a kid to not be able to play a sport or participate because his parents weren't able to get him to all the games.
Whatever, yeah.
So I think we've got to keep shaking the tree at the truck center, because I think it's their obligation to provide this. It's delineated in our contract, but I understand they have shortages, so I think we should look at all creative options.
So getting back to this whole van approach, most certainly, I think that Justin and I have done half of the due diligence for this. I wouldn't even be mentioning it to you if that wasn't the case. But that being said, this does have policy implications. And in order for this thing, yes, the due diligence has to happen, but if you're gonna proceed and you need to have these things by mid-August to really make a difference, then those policy changes are gonna have to get made during the summer.
Like, who would be monitoring the kids on the bus if the coach is driving?
That would be no one.
No one?
Well, but arguably, it's no different than right now.
Right.
If you've got, the coaches typically will ride on the bus, but, we have kids that we transport home every day. It's only the driver.
Yeah,
There's not a monitor.
okay.
But I think, Scott, why don't we proceed with doing some additional inquiries to see what our options are? Because
Okay.
I think the board, clearly we have to transport midday kindergarten. This is, again, let's not forget, this is yet another unfunded mandate in the state. They changed the law. They said that the bill had no fiscal impact. It clearly did. So this, here is another gift from Concord, downshifting costs to the local level.
Okay. So I'm good, I got my directions there. The next thing was your cistern update at Mountain View Middle School. We did not receive any bids on cleaning out that cistern tank. We are now working with a vendor, as well as the Goffstown Fire Department. Lieutenant Connor has been very helpful to us. So what we're hoping to do is a preliminary draining of that particular tank, working with the fire department to make sure that we have adequate protection of the building, and also inspecting the tank. So there is a possibility that we're good in terms of there might not be any issues, and then we just have to refill the tank. But if they find that there is needs for repairs, then it's a different story. Then we have to repair it. So we're in that investigation type phase. So Randy provided you numbers, I believe $75,000, and that's to go in and actually do a lot of repairs. So we might be pleasantly surprised. So that's the worst case scenario. And then the best case is that they go in there and they don't see any cracks or anything that requires a lot of repairs. We'll keep you posted on that. That's going to happen during the summer. What is not on here, which I want to advise you, is that unfortunately, we put out an RFP for the sprinkler system at Mountain View, I'm sorry, the irrigation system at Mountain View Middle School, and we did not receive any responses. So we're going to have to put that out to bid. I did contact a few of the vendors, and just so you're aware, initially we wanted this project to be done by the end of August of this summer, and then realizing that that was too tight of a window, we extended it to August of 2022. And the vendors that I had spoken to said they were just incredibly busy, they're short-staffed, they themselves are doing work. And if it were to be put out again, let us know. So I am going to redo the bid, on that one. So I just want to keep you posted. It's again, 2 projects, no bids. So we'll keep going. That's all I have.
Okay. The co-curricular, that's later.
That's
Okay.
later. Yep.
All right, so Facilities Planning Committee?
Facilities Planning Committee had met. We had an election of officers for the updated committee. Good conversation was had. There was some questions from the group that they don't know the aspects of what the school board or the committee's vision is for that group. So they were looking for specifics on things that we might want to entertain to them to say, specifically, we're looking for this. So we do have a meeting set up for the 22nd, which is the day after our next board meeting.
Right.
But some of the things that we'll be looking at the agenda is the current CIP. We did share that with them, looking at any questions that they might have on kind of the structure that we're going through. There was some pretty good cost benefits of, well, with the CIP, some of the funds that are in place for supporting our buildings. Again, what is it that we're looking for that committee to really solve? So I'll be working with Ellen and Terry to try to coalesce our mission statement, if you will. But I think it was a very good meeting that we had great participation from the community. Ellen, Terry, were there any other specific things that we want to bring up to this board?
I thought it went really well, Jared. Good interest on the part of everybody that was present. A little confusion on a request for more specific direction from the board. It seems to be a little maybe wobbly to some people. So but I thought it went well.
Yeah, I thought it went well. I think part of the question was around doing cost-benefit analysis between repairs and improvements versus new, for various things. And those are, looking at the CIP plan, there was 7, 8, 9 pages of information that they were trying to digest in a couple hours. So I think just a little guidance from us is really what they're looking for.
So we'll be having a revised agenda sent out to the group, but of course the 3 of us will be working together to drive that.
Perfect. Retta?
You mentioned that you've had elections, so who
The chair of the group is myself, and Ellen has been elected as the vice chair.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, well, thank you. So do you need more from us as the board to discuss stuff, or are you guys set?
I think we're going to work together because we are looking at that as an advisory committee. We don't want to remove any kind of broad authority that the school board has and what they would bring to this group. So I think from a formatting perspective, we'll work to try to drive, really what I've tried to pull as what was the correct term that I used? I can't recall. I'm just coming to a brain fire. But really getting us all into the same mindset of, okay, this is what we agree. Here are the options that we're bringing back to this board for the ultimate decision of what we want to do.
All right, well, let us know if you need anything. Yes, Retta?
I'm wondering if this might be a topic we talk about at the retreat.
Right.
That's,
I think
that's
so.
what I had already tentatively put this on the agenda, so
It's one of those things wherever we bring from the retreat, it's going to be fresh in our minds as we deliver it
Because it's the next day.
Next day.
Right.
Okay, so you got that on the retreat?
Yeah. I think Brian has it.
Brian?
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you, Jared. Superintendent report, Brian?
Kind of a long list tonight, but let me get right into it. Speaking of the board's retreat, we have executed or will be executing tomorrow the contract for St. A's. So again, we'd like to thank them for their continued support of the Goffstown School District. I wanted to let you know I had a couple of non-resident requests that I approved. One ended up only being for about a week, and the other ended up being about 2.5 weeks for students to remain for the remainder of the school year with us. The board should have received a message that I put out yesterday. I wanted to let everyone know that you can see the temperature in here in the library is great because we have air conditioning here. The schools were warm today. I was at Mountain View, I was at Maple Ave, I was here at the high school, walking classrooms, checking temperatures. For the most part, everything was fine. You know, it was a little warmer than normal, but we're pretty systematic in that we will turn our air exchange systems on starting at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and we will pump the buildings full of the coldest air of the morning. And we will, you know, obviously continue to work with teachers, keeping kids hydrated. But there was an important element of my message yesterday, which is Dr. Chan had changed recommendations regarding masks outdoors. Fascinatingly enough, this is information that Mrs. Berry and I were scrambling over the weekend to get our hands on the information that was shared because nothing was sent to superintendents. But we did confirm this was Dr. Chan's recommendation, and we made that adjustment today, which I feel is very appropriate. The weather tomorrow is going to be warm again, chance of some thunderstorms, so I think there's a break in it. Again, as I said in my message, I did not want to do any kind of an early dismissal. There are a lot of school districts that did that. I continue to think that that is an incredible hardship on families. So people that are able to work from home, adjust their schedule, it's easy for them to do that, but there's a lot of people who don't have that flexibility with their work. So that's not something I'm very reluctant to ever do early dismissals. A couple of other things. We had some changes. This board has heard me talk about some of the challenges with respect to the Medicaid to Schools program. There are some new requirements for medical diagnoses that Dr. Dolph and the special ed facilitators are working their way through. But again, I would just reiterate, this is a federal program. This is federal revenue that we receive, and we continue to have roadblocks at the state level for implementing this program, which continues to be frustrating. Our student vaccine clinic for 12 to 15-year-olds, our second day is this coming Friday. So we will look forward to welcoming about 500 students to come and get their vaccine at Goffstown High School. We will be ready for them as we have been with all the clinics that we've hosted. Mr. Gross attended and hosted a budget committee training session for all the new budget committee members, along with Danielle from the town hall. So I thought that was a great session that they both held. And Mr. Gross also met with the Parks and Rec commissioners 2 weeks ago, Scott. So again, usually Mr. Huft, our athletic director, would meet with Scott when he meets with them, but it continues to be important to be on the same page. They continue to develop the property down on the Clinton Barnard parcel by the transfer station. And if you haven't been down there, take a drive down there if you ever see that gate open, because it's pretty slick. It's going to take them a long time to realize their vision, but if you haven't seen it, you're going to want to take a drive down there at some point. We had our first reopening plan submission due to the Department of Ed by June 1st. This pertained to our ESSER 2 grant. We have a second one due on June 23rd. I'd like to thank Mr. Gross as well as Mrs. Berry for their hard work on that, along with a number of other people. But again, these are all the kinds of things that take an incredible amount of time for us to comply with all the requirements of the grants that we're able to get. So we have another one due on June 23rd, which we're working on. This week we have what looks like great weather in store for us for Mountain View promotion. I wanted to let everyone know that we're giving a lot of flexibility to families. 8th graders will have a remote day that day, so they can be ready. They have to, get everything ready to get over to Fisher Cat Stadium. And we're giving a lot of flexibility for siblings. So if you have a younger child at Maple Ave or at Bartlett or New Boston, that we're trying to give as much flexibility for siblings as we can to make sure that families can enjoy that event. And we're giving out 10 tickets per person, which is pretty neat. So we haven't been able to give out that many tickets, and it wasn't all that long ago when we did the middle school promotion that we only gave out 2 tickets. So this is really an improvement over the years. I wanted to let you know that we continue to work with a consultant from the Department of Ed on our English language learner program review for Title III. That has been ongoing, and Mrs. Berry has been overseeing that. As part of our ESSER 3 grant, this is the 3rd installment, we have a new requirement that I wanted to make the board aware of called maintenance of equity. This is a new requirement that requires us to ensure that there are certain elements of equity. We're still kind of working our way through it, but that is a new requirement for us. And we did provide a copy to the board chair of the program assurances. In the past, you had to sign those. You don't have to sign those anymore, but we wanted to make sure that you still get a copy of them. I had bus driver shortage on my list. I think Mr. Gross has already sufficiently covered that. I wanted to let the board know that we continue to work through an assessment and an evaluation of a comprehensive learning management system. We've had a voluntary committee of about 30 or so people that have been working very, very diligently. We've had at least 2 meetings a week for the last several weeks. And thus far, we have looked very comprehensively at the Schoology platform, which is the learning management software program associated with PowerSchool. We've had presentations on Canvas, which is the program that's being paid for by the Department of Ed for 4 more years after this year, and that goes all the way through the university system. We've had 2 presentations on the Google Classroom suite, and we have a presentation next week on Moodle, which has both an open source element as well as a for pay option that we're having presentations. This is really important, and I want the board to continue to know that we're looking at this. Many, many, many years ago, there was kind of a fork in the road, and school districts either chose to go with kind of a one-to-one device platform and adopted Google Classroom, or they didn't. And at that time, those were kind of your 2 options. This is a much more robust discussion now, and one of the many things that the pandemic has taught us is that a single comprehensive location for all of our curriculum assets, to have all of our resources for students and teachers in one centralized location is a good thing. And the ability to have requirements for use of a learning management software platform, or of like a Google Classroom where students are submitting assignments, there's anti-plagiarism software, there's just a lot that comes with it. And some of us have been kind of slow to adopt to this, but we're coming around. It only took a global pandemic, and I also came around on snow days. So I will say, you can teach me new tricks. We have 2 proms this week, one tomorrow and then another one on Saturday. The weather has me a little nervous for tomorrow, but Mr. McBride has been working his magic. He has a number of locations at St. Anselm College that if the weather is inclement, we have indoor opportunities for us, but we're hoping that we're going to be able to squeeze this in as nice events for the kids. I wanted to let the board know that I did increase the rates of pay for extended school year. This is for our special education program as well as our Title I program. We had an extreme shortage of staff. I had shared that earlier previously with the board, and I raised the rate of pay for this summer to teachers per diem rate and $20 for paras. We have most of the staff we need by doing that. We're still searching for a couple of folks, but we, for the most part, have been able to fill and we'll be able to run those programs. Absent doing this, we were not going to be able to run these IEP required programs. I wanted to let the board know that for the first time in a long time, I had a teacher reach out to me who's interested in serving on the school board. Some of you may not even recall or know that we have by policy 3 positions on the school board, one for the elementary level, one for the middle school level, and one for the high school level. I had a high school teacher reach out to me who is interested in serving in that capacity. So this is something that I need to do. I need to reach out to all levels and ask if there are any other people. And then if we have multiple people, we do a little election. But so we will pursue that. This board has not had the benefit of having a teacher rep since Kathy Sargent retired. I do think that was beneficial. I appreciated having Kathy as part of the board. and hopefully that's something that we'll be able to rekindle in a post-pandemic world. Mrs. Bizzarro is here, so this is a little timely, but I wanted to let the board know that our free meals program for the summer will pause, and we will look to resume in the fall with a lot of resources for any families that have food insecurity being provided through the network, as well as some of the local community churches. One of the things, just a few more, I apologize, this is a long list tonight. We're gonna need to move forward relatively soon with authorizations pertaining to policy KF, which is our facilities use process. We have not allowed those, but we've had a number of other requests that we're getting to the point in the pandemic where I think we're comfortable approving. So, you know, easy examples would be the Boy Scouts want to use a place to have their meeting, some of those kinds of things. So we would likely look to resume that process as we get into the summer and certainly next year. And speaking of next year, many school districts have kind of looked into their crystal balls and have speculated what they think COVID mitigation strategies are going to look like. I refuse to do that. I think we need to wait. I think we need to hold fast and look at all of the recommendations that we have in totality, look at the circumstances, and make decisions in kind of that early to mid-August timeframe. So I'm not going to name any names, but some school districts have already said no masks next year, and that may very well be the case. I'm not saying that I'm opposed to that in any way, shape, or form, but I think we always have to be prudent. We have to do our due diligence. We have to look at what the guidance is, and I'm not willing to speculate what recommendations might be from public health officials at this point in time. So I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. And the last piece I have is co-curricular and athletic stipends, which I think, are we going to do under other business at the end, or we're going to hit this at another point?
Well, we have the sheet to do it now.
Okay, it would be the chair's pleasure, but we have been working pretty hard on this, and Mr. Gross is ready to speak to this further if the board would like to hear it.
Go ahead, Scott.
All right, so you should have a blue sheet in front of you. Just as a recap, you'll recall that for the last couple of years, the board had $23,500 of unbudgeted stipend monies. $8,500 was associated with the new the current collective bargaining agreement, and the other $15,000 was just unbudgeted within right now. So we have had Ginny McKinnon is the rep to a co-curricular committee. Their work is still ongoing, but that committee did make recommendations for four positions. You'll see here bowling, gymnastics, model congress, and FBLA. You'll also recall that the last 3 out of 4 years, the school board has paid for stipends for boys varsity volleyball and JV volleyball, as well as Mountain View boys and girls lacrosse. These are the folks that were coming in to your meetings over the last 4 years. So the good news that I'm happy to report is that we had the superintendent, myself, and Kate met with the union leadership a couple of weeks ago, and there is concurrence on adding these 8 positions going forward. You'll note that it is within the $23,500. So I know that co-curricular stipends have been a long-standing issue, but I think we're making a significant dent in this by adding these 8. We have had a lot of discussions about looking at our current positions, which ones still make sense to proceed with, which ones don't. You'll recall that the other co-curricular piece is the performing arts, and that is one that we've had long-standing conversations about. They've been audit findings. We need to put those in the budget and then use ticket sales as the revenue to fund them. It's a much cleaner way of doing it. So between fixing that problem in the fall when we do our budget and adding these 8, I think we're really, really close to satisfying all the current positions. We're getting a lot closer. So at first I thought this was going to be a very, very daunting thing, but over time, I mean, this is a major step forward for us.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Sorry.
Scott, in your negotiations, were these negotiated for 1 year or
No,
ongoing?
Ongoing, and that's why
Awesome.
this is
Thank
so
you.
important, is that we've done this every single year but now this has been signed off on to go in, to be included with all the other ones.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad it
Yeah.
worked out that way. Thank you.
Ginny, or Ellen, sorry.
Masks.
I know, I was thinking Ginny, but looking at you.
Okay. I guess I'm glad to see, these are positions that currently do not get funded.
That's
funds,
correct.
like
Because either they're
By,
not getting
by the
funded at all,
district.
By the district,
or
okay.
some of them were funded by,
I'm- And I'm glad to see us moving to this, but this is still not within the context of what all the stipends are, what categories they're
Yes.
all in, how much everybody else is making who gets stipends. It's putting dollars and cents to, and I'm not opposed to paying people for doing these additional tasks at all. I'm just concerned that would take potentially doing this without seeing the big picture and these within the big picture.
well, let me start by saying that all of these positions went through a formula. So we surveyed administrators and the folks doing it. To how many hours do you spend with your kids? And then we put that through the existing formula.
Oh,
All
okay.
right? So as we proceed, if Ginny's committee tweaks the formula, which they probably will, then everything will then get reevaluated against that formula. So
Okay.
in this case, this has been fairly done, Ellen, in the sense that we're applying the current formula, and we inputted all of the information that we got from either the principal, the athletic director, and the person who's doing the job right now.
And actually, a survey was sent to
Right.
everybody that included hours, students that they serve, times met, all of those different things in the survey. So all of that came into this
So
discussion.
this total number then will have to be budgeted each year,
It already is.
There he is.
this total amount.
So the budgeting has already happened. What this gets us is this gets us closer to the goal of providing stipends for all athletic and co-curricular programs that we authorize. So we continue to get closer. You'll see some of these on the list. Bowling, you have a championship bowling team that's won the state championship 2 different times. Never received a stipend. Gymnastics never received a stipend. Model Congress, we've been doing for over 20 years. FBLA, these are all great programs that kids benefit from. So the bigger picture is working collectively with the association, and I'm so grateful to Ginny for her work on the committee and the committee members. This is shared work. This is shared interest. We want to appropriately compensate people to be coaches or to be advisors of programs, and this gets us closer. So this is a really good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, Shane, didn't see your hand
No
up. Go
problem,
ahead.
thank you. Clarification, what's FBLA?
Future Business Leaders of America.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we have an award-winning program here that every year they go to the state championship and they bring home a ton of awards. Krista Scarlett is our teacher advisor, and she's been doing this program for a long time. And it's again, this is just another example that we've worked hard over the years to increase the money, to add money to the budget, to add these positions when we've done new contracts. You know, these are things we should be paying for. And some of these, like volleyball and lacrosse, had been paid for by boosters clubs in the past, but they have struggled raising money during COVID. And, you know, so again, we're moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
So I would need a motion from the board to accept these eight positions and, you know, and that they'll be included in the list going forward. So this is going to be, I don't want to use the word permanent. It's not permanent. Nothing's permanent.
Right.
But just they're added to our current list.
In perpetuity.
All right, does anybody have any?
I'd like to make that motion.
Ginny's making a motion.
I'd like to make the motion to add these 8 positions to our co-curricular stipends ongoing as confirmed by HR and GEA.
Do I have a second? Right, Ellen. Any other discussion before I do roll call?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Dan.
I don't believe I had the benefit of seeing what you guys are seeing, and thus I will be abstaining from the vote because I don't have the information.
Scott,
just wanted to put that in writing on the record. I don't have to go any further. I think it's going to pass.
I can try to send it to you, Dan, if you'd like.
Dan, he's going to send it to
No, because that'll just hold us up, and I don't want to do that.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dan, but we'll send it to you anyway so you can see
Yep.
it. All right.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'll do roll.
Ditto.
Oh, Janelle, do
Thank
you
you.
have it too?
Yep, did it. I need it too. Please, thank
Okay.
you.
Scott, Janelle needs it as well. All right, so I'm gonna do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Abstain.
Dan?
Abstaining for the reason priorly stated.
Okay,
That's
thank
a
you.
new word.
Thank you. Ellen?
Yes,
Terry?
Yes.
Heather, yes. So motion passed, 2 abstentions.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Ginny and the staff. Yes, Jared?
Just a question to Brian from your report out. You use the term maintenance of equity. I guess, are you doing further research on that? Because that is a concerning term to some of our constituents.
So that's a term that we have very carefully been paying attention to. So we wanted to make sure, we're always careful to make sure that grants don't come with strings attached that we're not comfortable with. It could be being required to teach a particular program or something. We have looked over everything. This does not appear to be in that context. I think it's more reporting to make sure that all students in schools across the country are equitably having access to resources. So I think for us, Jared, I'm pretty comfortable, but because it's new and because it's something that the federal government is requiring of us to do, I wanted to make sure the board was aware. But Mrs. Berry and I have both been paying very close attention, looking for any strings attached. And you have to understand, when you sign off on these program assurances, you're agreeing to all kinds of things. I won't even give you examples because you wouldn't believe me. But, okay, I'll give one. There's a sign off that you have to include that you're complying with a federal law from 1970 around keeping caged animals. So there are all kinds of things in these program assurances, pages and pages and pages of them. We pay attention, we read them all very carefully, but this maintenance of equity was new.
Okay.
And it appears to me to only be a reporting element. It doesn't seem to have any other requirements, but we are watching that carefully.
Thank you.
Shane?
One question, one comment. Brian, I think you said that the board should have received your correspondence from yesterday.
was a
You
phone
might not be
call.
in the list.
I did not, yeah, okay.
Okay, so yeah, so I have, when I put out messages, very often I send them to the school board as well, just so if any of your constituents ever called you, you would know what they were calling about. So we'll have to make sure that we get, Terry, you probably, did you get the message yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, so just Shane?
From the school
I
board.
can't think anything changed for you,
Right,
Retta.
you got it.
So we'll get you added.
Check, I got it 3
Perfect.
times.
Because you would
so-
get it as a parent,
Just making sure you got it,
Yeah.
Terry.
but make sure you
But
get
I'll
it
check
at
it
your
was
school
from
board.
Yeah, sorry about that,
That's
Shane.
okay.
We must not have you in the system yet.
That's okay. And my comment, I fully support having teacher representatives on the board. So I'm grateful that someone is willing to step up. And I hope that there are candidates that will step up from the lower levels.
From the other levels,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be great. You know, it's been a long time since we've had 3.
Right.
So to go in that direction, again, is a great resource for the school board, that you have an active practitioner at the table. If you have questions or you want to get their input, you can do that.
Great.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
That's
Thanks,
it.
Shane. For Brian, before we move on? All right, seeing none, so we're going to old business, A, HB 1612.
I will do this quickly, and Mr. Cloutier, you can't see me, but I'm holding up a piece of paper that has all kinds of information behind it. So I have been provided by Mr. Bourget with more information than I hope to need to present this to you. Annually, we're required to give an update on our data governance plan. This has to do with House Bill 1612. Mr. Cloutier was on that committee that originally developed the data governance plan, so he's very familiar with this. And annually, we have to give you an update. At this point, Mr. Bourget is not recommending any changes. He thinks that there may be some revisions needed if we make a decision regarding a learning management system, but at this point, he's comfortable with the plan as it exists. So an update on network security. We have implemented additional security tools to continue to move closer to full compliance with the New Hampshire minimum standards. These include data breach monitoring at all SAU19.org and SAU19.net login accounts, additional SSO systems, and a newly upgraded firewall in Goffstown that handles all internet traffic. We have to provide you with notifications of data breaches. The IT department was notified through our monitoring service of 7 data breaches containing either staff or student accounts since July 1st, 2020. And this is important to realize. Each of these services that experienced the breach were not vetted resources used by either of the districts. They were tools or services that staff or students had signed up for with a school account. And they included a list of platforms if people are interested. As part of our standard process, users were notified and their passwords were changed, and it's important to know we were not notified by any of our vendors or vetted programs of any data breaches during the same window of time. So we have to continue to remind teachers, to remind staff that only approved programs are able to be used for these very reasons. But we continue to keep at it. And as part of our login security, as part of our annual review and based on some best practices, we will be forcing a password change of all users, students and staff for the fall, as several students in both districts were identified in one of our audits of having compromised accounts due to the data breaches that I mentioned above. And that's happening with a third-party vendor. So at this point, the only breaches we had were for things that we had not approved people to use, and we will continue to make sure that people know and understand the expectations. But we continue to benefit from having a brilliant, incredibly hardworking IT director who is as mission critical as anyone in this school district.
Thank you. Anybody? Questions, Jared?
Statement, just in the agenda, it says that policy read is EHAC, but I think we're looking at EHAB, so just a notation on that.
Good catch.
Thank you.
Shane?
I just want to make sure, do our teachers and school staff have a list of approved vendors?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
Thank you.
And usually, Shane, it has to do with an iPad app that a teacher really likes and maybe they're using because they think it's great for kids. But, and again, I never assume any malicious intent. I think people just don't know that you had, in order to use that, it has to go through a process, it has to be approved. And that can be slow, it can be a little clunky for teachers who are just looking to get in and use something with kids. So again, I don't think that there's any intent or malice. I think that people are just trying to do the best they can with kids, and we just have to remind them, you have to have anything you're gonna use has to go through the process, it has to be vetted.
Right, I just want to be sure that our staff was able to communicate that to our students.
Yes.
Perfect.
MC's got her hand up. Do you want to come up here?
HB 1612.
You have to go to the mic, MC.
I thought I could just speak from the back of the room. As part of HB 1612, all school districts were required to post an ongoing list, updated list onto the website of all of the apps and all of those pieces that have been vetted and are acceptable for use.
Perfect.
So it should be there. Let us know if it's not.
All right, thank you.
And Shane, we also
Thank you,
have a
MC.
process that if someone wants to ask for something to be approved, we have a process for that.
Great.
So it just sometimes takes a little time, and we need to make sure that everything's vetted. Otherwise, you have data breaches.
Thank you.
Dennis?
Just another question. Does this get shared with the faculty and staff, this report of the breaches?
The breaches, this report doesn't get shared, but Stephen often puts out advisories that we've had a data breach. He gives a lot of information around phishing, make sure you don't click on things, don't enter your password. Routinely and chronically, we need to continue to push that out and I think the hackers continue to get a little more sophisticated. So in the past, things were misspelled, they may have looked like gibberish, and now we're seeing increasing sophistication. So we do continue to push information out to teachers.
All right, thank you, Retta. Any other questions for Brian? All right, moving on, we're adding B for Jared to you
Thank-
wanted to talk about?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Just looking at our meeting minutes from May 17th that were correctly recorded and approved by the school board, I want to bring us back to page 6 at the first paragraph. And this was the re-implementation of the foreign exchange student. As we discussed and as written and recorded, it looks like we actually updated the policy to approve 6 students as part of the policy because we did that as one motion. I do not believe that that was our intent.
No.
I believe that we wanted to keep it at 5 students, but we only wanted to approve 6 for the next academic year.
As a temporary.
As a temporary one for the next academic year. So I'd like to make a motion to ensure that JFABB remains at 5 students, but we only approved 6 students for the next academic year.
All right, thank you, Jared. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
By Ellen. Any discussion? All right, I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Ms. Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, so we're going on to new business. I did switch some things around because the finance is a big portion. So we have the suicide prevention, a little bit of a presentation from MC Barry, Joyce Lewis, and is that it? Just you two? Okay.
So welcome, Mrs. Lewis. I think everyone knows Mrs. Lewis. She's our school counseling coordinator here at Goffstown High School, and this is pertaining our suicide prevention and response plan.
So if we could ask you, I think in your packets, you've got policy JLDBB, along with the regulation, and our final draft of the Goffstown School District Suicide Prevention and Response Plan. So it's good to see you all again. So we're here looking to gain board approval for the final draft of the Goffstown Suicide Prevention and Response Plan. In 2019, Chapter 193J was added to Senate Bill 282 specific to suicide prevention education in schools with an effective date of July 1st, 2020. 193J required districts to develop a policy, which you have in front of you, develop a plan, and to implement mandatory training for staff that had to be completed by March 31st, 2021. During the summer of 2020, which seems like an awfully long time ago, but it really was not, there was a team that included Joyce Lewis, Sheehan Gendron, Tori Underwood, Ryan Roy, and myself, and we reviewed the New Hampshire DOE approved suicide prevention options to determine what was the best option to train our staff. As the pandemic was in full swing and we really had no idea if in-person gathering would occur during the school year, the decision was made to provide an online training module through NAMI New Hampshire for our staff. That PD was launched in September with the due date for completion per the policy of March 31st, 2021. While that was taking place, policy JLDBB was being drafted and was adopted by the board on November 11th of 2020. Now you'll note in policy JLDBB that it states that no later than May 31st, 2020, that the superintendent shall develop and provide to the board for approval a coordinated written district suicide plan. If I can just take you back a little bit in time to where we were last summer, we were reopening schools, was a pandemic. We also were dealing with policy ACAC, sexual harassment, which the federal government had brought forward to us in May to be implemented in August, and it was a 22-page policy that we brought to you in the fall as well. So, Ginny's laughing. The plan that was initially provided to you is the regulation. So if you go to the third page of your policy, it says JLDBB-R. And this was the initial plan that was drafted and put together to kind of meet the letter of the law of the policy that said we had to have a policy and a plan. So we were also implementing training, getting things up to speed. And what we also knew to be true was that we were going to be back in front of you, which we told you we would be, with a more comprehensive plan. And here we are. Joyce Lewis will be presenting the plan to you this evening. The plan in front of you represents the work of a committee consisting of Joyce Lewis, Amanda St. Pierre, Goffstown school psychologist, Sheehan Gendron, Goffstown mental health counselor, Tori Underwood, principal of New Boston Central School, who is a certified school counselor, Kathy Brown, New Boston certified school counselor, John Webb, Goffstown High School certified school counselor, and Ryan Roy, MVMS certified school counselor, and myself. As a committee, we began meeting weekly by Zoom in January, and we finalized the draft that is before you this evening about 2 weeks ago. Why did that take so long? Well, we're sure that you can agree that this is some of the most important work that we do, and the committee wanted to make sure that it was as thorough and correct as possible. We also want you to know that as part of the development, the document has been shared with counselors and psychologists for feedback and was also reviewed by the superintendent. So at this point, Joyce?
Okay. So the real goal of this plan was, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The real goal of this plan was to make sure that we articulated a process that would stand true in each district school. We have different players and different staff in each school, so we wanted a document that could capture all of that and reflect that for each school and each developmental age group. And the plan you'll see is divided into 3 sections. So we talk about prevention and how we're going to train our staff and students. Intervention, what we do when we find that a student is struggling with suicidal thoughts, and postvention, what we will do in the case that we have a completed suicide in our district. Our next steps as we move past this document are to review the manual and documents that are referenced in this as a cross-district team and check for that same continuity and common understanding and update as necessary. We haven't published those documents. We just want to note that those documents, the intent are that they are only accessed by trained and certified staff who are trained to do safety assessments, so that we don't have well-meaning staff thinking, oh, I have the manual, I can do this part. We really want to make sure that that's kept with our professional counseling staff to do those assessments. We are also looking at different curriculum. We're looking for 1 or 2 resources depending on developmental age groups. We want to make sure we have something that we can implement in a district this size and that covers the needs of our students developmentally, because we're dealing with a span of K through 12. So we've started to look at a couple different programs and different models, and when we get to one that we feel meets the needs, we'll be presenting that at C&E and implementing that as well. And I think that's the short version. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer any questions about the plan.
Anyone, Jerry?
From a policy decision and implementation, I think this is more geared towards the superintendent, Ms. Chair.
Okay.
Looking at the prevention staff development, the question I have is, we list a number of individuals that would have the required minimum of 2 hours training. From a policy standpoint, does that include the school board? Because we do have regular interactions with students as part of the student rep, that's part of our board. So I just want a kind of a official decision, should the school board be attending this training as well?
I don't think you're required to. If the board wanted to make that decision, it is a remote training that we could push out to everyone if you were so inclined to do that. But I would say not required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Any other, Ellen?
Yes, school counselors are mentioned a lot, okay? And to a lot of people, school counselors advise on your courses for next year and getting you into college. School counselors, certified school counselors, they're not psychologists. They're not social workers, I think I'm correct. What is the specialty of that certification that enables school counselors to be qualified to address the issue of suicide prevention?
So that's a great question. We are trained with a Master's of Ed in School Counseling, and much of that program is mental health counseling. It runs parallel to the mental health counseling program. There are a few different courses that are depending on the job, so we have more special ed law and some of those things in our master's program. Back when the profession started, we were called guidance counselors, and we did a lot of course advising. Since that time, the position has grown. There's the American School Counselor Association. They've actually changed the title and the certification to be school counselors, and there's mental health training in those programs.
Okay, so it's more of a generic, changing with the need of our student
Absolutely, yep.
population. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Go ahead, Shane.
Is our staff already participating in suicide prevention training, or would this be brand new?
It was all completed by March of this year.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But we have to do it annually.
Right, yep.
Ellen, go ahead.
Just knowing, because I took a bunch of these a few years back. Is this training, you say it's 2 hours, is this like the one you do on the computer for, this,
That's how we did it this year.
okay,
And that was primarily as a delivery method during COVID. So for example, we did Know and Tell training, which trains all staff on their responsibility as a mandatory reporter for suspected abuse and neglect. We did that as a large group training. We did that right before the pandemic. I think it might have been, the very week that we closed schools, but we chose to deliver this remotely, just given the times. We may rethink that. It's nice to have a remote option if anyone's absent or if people weren't able to attend a session, but that had more to do with COVID.
okay. Because there are the other two that teachers need to receive either every year or once every 3 years. Do you know which ones?
Well, every 3 years, you might be thinking like first aid, CPR.
Okay,
We
and then
do,
there's
that's every
another one
2
that's
years.
annual. We still do those
Bullying
remotely?
training, the bullying training?
That's it.
Bullying has to be done annually.
Okay, and we're doing those remotely.
Yes.
And this is being planned to be done remotely. I see a big advantage to doing it in person.
Well, there are pros and
Thank
cons.
you, I just
Some of it
wanted to see.
logistically, it's easier for us to be able to
Yeah.
push it out, to track, to monitor, et
Yeah,
cetera.
absolutely. Okay,
We've
thank you.
also tried to be sensitive to people's needs for differentiation.
Yep,
It's,
yep.
for
Okay,
some
thank you.
folks, they're more comfortable in their living room on a computer, and there are other folks who would prefer to be in a room with others. So we're trying to continue to look at that option as well.
Is there any other questions, comments for MC or Joyce?
Dan and Janelle, do you have the documents?
I do have the document.
Great.
Yep, I got it, thank you.
The only other thing, Heather.
Yes.
That we were wondering if it could be done, and if not tonight, that's fine. We wondered if the regulation could be removed from the policy and just added to the plan as part of the plan. And it's our recommendation that the plan live just as a plan, not as a regulation attached to the policy, so that we can make changes and bring them forward to the board in a more fluid manner without it having to go through the policy committee.
So MC, what you're saying is you'd like to potentially recommend that the board consider that they would put forth a motion to adopt the Goffstown School District Suicide Prevention and Response Plan and to remove regulation JLDBBR.
And add it to the plan,
And
because
add it to
it's
the plan.
referenced in the plan. So we want to, remember, initially, we had to have it as part of the plan to be congruent and compliant with law.
Right.
Now we'd like to take it off because it fits
With the plan.
with the plan.
Okay. Ellen, I know you had,
Can we leave it in both places?
I think they're looking for more flexibility,
Right.
that if there are any changes that want to be made
Okay.
by the
It's easier
committee,
to do
it's
it.
easier to do it, so you
Okay.
don't have to go through the process
No
of
problem.
going through policy review, of having multiple
Right.
Thank you.
sessions with the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So is everybody okay with that motion? Have any questions?
Do we have a motion?
Dan?
Well, Heather,
Yes, go ahead. I'm waiting for you.
I believe that you would have to, since this is affecting a policy, without putting forward an exception, it needs to go through policy to remove it.
Right, I was thinking that too. And we won't meet
Yeah.
again until the fall. Can you wait?
So we can do that in the
You
fall,
can
just
leave it-
approve
you
the
can leave it as-
plan.
yeah, leave it
as
as a
is, and we'll do
regulation,
the
but just
policy
approve
part
the
in the
plan
And
fall.
then talk in the policy committee? Okay.
Yep.
All right, we can do that.
So I'll make a motion to approve the Goffstown School District Suicide Prevention Response Plan into implementation.
Thank you, Jared. Do I have a second by Jenny? All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll do roll call. Greta?
Yes.
Jenny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes,
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes, motion passed. So we'll put that on the first agenda of policy.
Great. Thank you all
guys
so
very
much.
much
Thank
for
you.
doing that.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yes, have a good night. All right, so next up is finance. So Scott, you have a long list here.
Yeah, I just don't know what I have, because I gave down my agenda, so, hold on.
Do you want me to tell you what's first?
It's okay. Fund balance projection. All right, so, you'll recall that when we're in budget formation, time, which is, October, November, December, we have to kind of project where we think our unassigned fund balance and our use of fund balance, for tax setting purposes, where that will kind of line up. So in doing all those calculations, I had projected a rather aggressive $1.7 million of use of fund balance to offset the tax rate. And I'm pleased to tell you that we're gonna hit that target, and we might even exceed it, but we'll hit the target. Where we're looking at right now is about a $600,000 to $700,000 over collection of or greater than expected revenue. Some of that has come from tuition, but it also came from greater than anticipated special education aid from the state, and a few other categories. So we're looking good there. In terms of the underspend of our budget, although you did get a copy of where of our financials for May, we have significant payments that occur in June, such as balloon payments for teachers, et cetera, et cetera. I'm looking at probably about a $1.6 million underspend of the budget, and we're going to be talking about assisting the food service fund shortly. But all of that being said, I feel very confident that we're going to hit those targets, no problem, all right? And a lot of it was due to the fact that there were certain things that we couldn't do due to COVID-19. And with money did go in different directions this year, but overall we did realize some savings in our budget. Grants, those SP, RSF, that greatly helped us. So with that, we'll hit those rather aggressive targets. I wanted you to know that because it sets up our discussions for everything else. So with that, I'm going to ask Megan to kind of come up, and Megan is going to give you kind of like the end of year update. And I know that we had, right, Megan, it wasn't exactly, we had worse numbers a couple of months ago, and I think Dan was the person who said, hey, rather than give a number, transfer now, let's wait. And we did that, and Dan, you were right.
We did well.
Yeah, so we did better than what we expected, and I think, Megan, I'll let you start off, largely because we opened school up again.
Yes. Hello, folks.
Hi, Megan.
So last time I spoke with you folks, we were looking at a range of a loss of anywhere from $300,000 to about $330,000. Laura, Taylor, Scott, and myself have looked at the numbers, and right now we are projecting roughly $250,000 of a loss. So we have made up some ground, obviously with school coming back in. That helped us tremendously at the lower grades. The high school is still pretty slow in sales, but that's okay. You know, we're here and we're doing about probably a little less than 200 kiddos a day here at the high school. And now we're gonna head into exams as well. But so we are really pleased to report to you that number in terms of what we're looking at. And if you look at our financials, that number corresponds pretty closely to what our typical a la carte sales are. So with COVID being in, we had really zero a la carte sales because students were in the buildings, students weren't eating in the cafeteria, we weren't having kids funnel through our snack shack area because of spacing. So that extra, if you will, we received a higher reimbursement rate this year. With that definitely helped us immensely. We're going to be receiving almost $450,000 in federal aid this year. That's more than I've been here for 12 years. We've never gotten even close to that number. So that number obviously was a huge, huge help for us. And next year they're talking about an even higher reimbursement rate than what we received this year, which is good news for our programs and for our district and for families. Questions about that, where we're landing, where we're anticipating to land?
Go ahead, Ginny.
We were talking a while back about the Title I and free lunch programs. Has that been taken care of as far as, you know, because we were giving the free lunches, and has anything been done to
for an adjustment, if you will?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. Scott might know better. So that's a good question.
A lot is tied right now that the state kind of uses free and reduced lunches as the metric for things like Title I and adequacy. Okay,
right.
I'm sorry, it's adequacy, not Title I. And there is bipartisan support. Again, the budget is still, state budget is still in play, but there is bipartisan support to use the pre-pandemic free and reduced lunch numbers so that it will not impact the adequacy aid. So just so, is that the free and reduced piece is part of the formula?
Right.
So, but everything that I've been hearing is that both parties, if there's mutual agreement that they're going to use the numbers and kind of the adequacy numbers pre-pandemic for this next year. So we're good there.
But it hasn't been decided for sure.
Not well, until
probably.
The budget is completely passed. Right.
Okay.
And I saw, if you're set, Ellen has her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Jenny.
There was some discussion a while back with regard to free and reduced lunch, a concern that parents whose children need it are not signing up for it, and therefore we're losing funding through this mechanism. Is there something we have done or can do for next year to make sure these people do sign up their kids up for this?
Well, I do think that this is an ongoing issue. Next year, it will still be, we've received a waiver, so we're proceeding with that waiver. As Megan stated, the federal government is kicking in, more monies to kind of offset, which would have been a hardship on our part. So we feel pretty good that even with the free and reduced, this waiver going forward, and increased a la carte sales, because they can buy a la carte on top of the free lunch, that we'll be in a much better position next year than we were this year. To get to your point, though, we will continue to endeavor to make sure that families do sign up. We recognize, and the state legislature, everybody who's in the business understands that when you give that waiver, there's less impetus for encouragement for people to sign up. And that is why they changed, they went back to the pre-pandemic level. So we will, it's something that, like I said, our state reps, our state senator, the governor, they all know it was an issue. That's why they're changing and going to the pre-pandemic level.
But so annually going forward, there's something we're going to do as a district to
Yes.
really make sure that the parents.
And every other district needs to do the same thing because.
Puts forward, 'cause we're
across
losing
the
money,
board,
right?
It was like a 20%, like,
Yes.
decrease.
It was huge.
Bigger than that. In some of the bigger districts, it was 50%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number,
Yeah. And Ellen, we do that every year regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not. You know, we send home a paper application with every single child.
sure.
We have an online application parents can do. We send home emails and any statement of account, if you will, that always has, please fill out a form here. So we've got it everywhere. You know, for a lot of folks, there's a sense of pride. And no matter what we say that this would help out your district, they're still not going to do that for them. So,
I hear you.
you know, it's a tough one. It's hard. It's hard.
Jared, I see your hand up.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
then
Chair.
Ginny.
Looking at the document here, it looks like our operating budget shortfall is $250,000. What was our fund balance in the account at the beginning of the year?
A little over 100.
So,
But that is there for equipment failures. It's there for, I would not recommend dipping into that simply because like one piece of like a compressor, these things could be like $15,000, you know, so, and it happens like that.
Yeah.
So I think you do want a buffer in your food service fund for those types of events, and it has happened.
no, I agree with you on that, Scott. It was just a question. There was a
Okay.
piece of information that we didn't have.
Oh.
But there was $100,000 in the
Yeah.
account right now.
Yep.
But the operating budget is a shortfall of $250,000.
So we're trying to, my recommendation, also I should state, is that when I talked to you about we'll reach our target, I have been not so nice to my peers in terms of I need to not spend certain areas because I knew that I had to have almost a $300,000 coverage for food service. It's great that it's 250, but I did factor that in all throughout the year in terms of knowing where to hit the target for our use of fund balance. So that being the case, I feel comfortable telling you we're going to hit the fund balance target with a $250,000 transfer from the general fund to the food service fund, and that's my recommendation. Is that the board make a motion to transfer $250,000 from the general fund to the food service fund to cover COVID-related revenue shortfalls.
If I may follow,
Yeah, go ahead.
just because it was mentioned. So if $100,000 is the fund balance we're looking to maintain in the account, what is the percentage of the food budget that $100,000 encompasses of? So what's our food budget?
So our budget is almost $1.2 million.
Yep.
So this is 10%.
It's about that
Correct.
as your
Yes.
buffer in that account.
And we,
And that also accompanies changes in food prices, catastrophic failures of equipment.
Most definitely, and I think that's a biggie, is that when you're teetering on having to increase food prices, you may let that go for 1 year because you have a little bit, and it gives a little bit more time to kind of make those food pricing changes. So you might end up taking a loss in food service for a year, and maybe you lose $50,000, and then that fund balance would be used in that particular time. Then you raise your food prices the next year. So that's kind of the intent behind it.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Jared. All right, Ginny, I know your hand was up.
I wonder if you could do some, and I know you do some already, but if you could do something on your applications that lets people know, like, don't be embarrassed about or feel badly about filling out this. If you qualify, please fill it out, because in filling this out, if you qualify, the town gets extra adequacy money and extra services for students that need it. And you don't have to use the services if you don't want it. You know, if your child does not want free and reduced lunches, they don't have to take them. But at least you would be signed up and the district would get credit for, your being signed up. I mean, is that crazy or?
No, and that is part of the marketing that I believe we put out in the beginning of the year. There's a lot of information out there. We can't really change what's on the application. The application
okay.
itself is, I believe it's 4 pages, double-sided. I mean,
Okay.
it's, I don't know if anybody who actually really reads it all, because it's just, but we can look to put on, if you will, more of a splash of a cover letter with some highlights, and to see if that might drive some interest.
Yeah.
I'll put that on my little list over here so I don't forget. But I know that there's a lot of that information that's out there. And more of that has come out this year because of the pandemic.
Has it? Yeah, okay.
So
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Megan? All right, so you need a motion tonight, correct, Scott?
Yes, please.
So,
I'll move that we
Okay,
approve the transfer from general fund to food service in the amount, was it 250,000?
Yes, please.
In the amount of 250,000.
all right, thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second? Oh, Jared, you,
I'm sorry, for that motion, what, we said the transfer from where to
General
this?
fund.
General fund.
The general fund? Thank you.
to food service. So do I have a second by Ginny? Any other discussion? Go ahead, Jared.
Scott, I know that you mentioned the 1.7 million projected of our current fund balance. Was that in addition of this money being removed and the contingency fund being replenished? Is really 1.7 the starting point before we look to authorize all these other transfers?
It's the end result of all of that being removed.
Okay, so our fund balance is roughly, without this, $2 million?
It's actually higher than that.
Did you have it listed here? I was looking through all the paperwork and
Yeah.
I got a little confused where the numbers were.
Yeah, so, there are, your fund balance is comprised of several things. It's monies that are left over in your budget, which I'm projecting are probably gonna be, after we do this, about $1.3 million. Then it's also comprised of revenues that were higher than what you anticipated, probably around $600,000. Then, as you know, your 2.5% contingency fund, that lapses on June 30th. So that currently has about $652,000 in it. That goes into unassigned fund balance. And then from there, come July 1, the voters voted for $200,000 from the capital reserve fund. That gets deposited. Hopefully tonight, you'll allocate what you're allowed, the maximum, 2.5%. That also is accounted for, and then after all of that is said and done, $1.7 million is needed to offset the tax rate. And that is the bottom line after all of those things happen. We're gonna hit that target.
2.8 million.
You're saying 2.8 million, Ellen?
That's what I understood. 1.7 plus those three things.
It is. Do you want me to go over? I can go through all the numbers if you want.
No, I'm good with what's being presented.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion before we do roll call? Okay, seeing none. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yep.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the support.
Thank you,
The crew
Megan,
really
for your hard
appreciates
work.
it.
Thank you for the
Well,
work.
and if I may, just really quickly,
Yeah.
a lot of people have worked hard during the pandemic. I don't know if anyone has worked harder than Megan Bizzaro. So talk about an absolute hero of this school district to make sure that kids were fed,
Yeah.
that she had a small crew, she had a lot of staffing challenges, and yet dedicated to making sure our kids had food, like a mama bear. So,
Thank you, Megan.
thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, Scott, the next is the 2.5% contingency.
Yeah, so that, you should have this, this in front of you, and what I wanted to share with you is, kind of a couple of things. How is this 2.5% arrived at? And it's the amount is 2.5% of your local assessment, as long as the state education assessment, which is called SWEPT. These are monies that are kind of raised locally and retained locally. But that's, for FY 2021, that amount is $26,636,359, and then 2.5% of that is a little over $665,000. So I want you to look at it from this perspective. Right now, you have $652,000 set aside for emergencies as part of this contingency fund. On June 30th, that money lapses. It goes into your fund balance. And what you're allowed to do is now you're allowed to then set aside up to, say, $665,000. So in essence, you really only have to add like $13,000 more, because one lapse, you're allowed to put a little more in. So you're adding $13,000 to that, a little bit of a transfer, and that's that. So you have the ability to retain $665,000 and a little bit more than that, but for sake of just using round numbers, I am recommending that you do allocate $665,000 as part of your 2.5% contingency fund. And that would, again, be from monies that are left over from June 30th of this year. And that's kind of where we're at. Any questions?
Anybody? All right, Ellen, you had your hand up.
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Somebody else wants to.
Doesn't matter. Go for it.
You're on a roll, Ellen.
I'm trying. The only way to move forward is to make motions.
That's right.
Move on it.
Keep it moving.
I move to authorize the business administrator to fund the 2.5% contingency fund with funds from the unassigned fund balance of the fiscal year 21 school year in the amount of $665,000.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All right, Jared. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yep.
Ellen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed.
Thank you. The next one is kind of one that we've been doing for several years, and that is when there is, as if many of you don't know, so in the case of Shane perhaps, our GEA contract does provide for a stipend at the end of one service, and if we have funds, we have the option of paying it in the current year's budget or in next year's budget. When there is flexibility and there's opportunity to do it out of this year's budget, we tend to do so. So there is the opportunity to do it out of this year's budget. Would be my recommendation to do so. The total amount is $55,000 of the stipend. So that would be my recommendation, that you would authorize me as your business administrator to pay those stipends using FY21 budget dollars.
I'll move that.
All right.
Approval of $55,000 for the retirement stipend amount.
Okay, I have a motion by Ellen. Do I have a
Second.
second by Shane? Any other discussion, questions before I do roll call? Okay, seeing none. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed.
Next up is commodity bids during the summer months, and typically the board authorizes myself and the superintendent to accept commodity bids. I'm hoping to have the paper bid before you by the next school board meeting. That's the hope, but I can't do propane and oil until, I usually do that in late July, or early August. I found that that's been like the best time for those two commodities. You'll recall that your current rate on propane is $1.16. The current rate on propane is trending between $1.30 and $1.35 over the last couple of weeks. talking with our current provider, he thinks that will come down, but it's not as good as it was. So you'll recall that you made some really good decisions last couple of years when you extended it when the price was low. I don't think I don't have a good feeling that we're gonna be in that same position. I think we might see a 10 or 15% increase in terms of our propane and oil pricing. So oil might be even higher than that. So we got oil at $1.79 a gallon, and I'm not so optimistic that we're gonna come close to that. I think it's trending at $2.20 a gallon right now. So we have to recognize that we had like some really, really good years on oil and propane. And let's just keep our fingers crossed that that we'll have, just a little bit of a bump. I will say that I am asking for, we are putting the propane bid we have through the end of the next school year, but I'm asking for pricing. So we're gonna be going out to bid for the school year after that one, and then I'm doing an option to do it the year after that. So there are some companies that will give us pricing 2 to 3 years out. Our current provider does that as well. So if we can take advantage of favorable pricing, that will be something that we will do. So I just wanted to let you know that that's something that more than likely Brian and I will have to act on in August without necessarily your input. So
Jerry?
you give Brian and I the authorization to do this, you're knowing that.
I'd like to make a motion to have the business administrator or superintendent or their designees to accept commodity bids during the summer months and report to the school board at the next successful meeting what those bids were.
Thank you, Jared. Do I have a second? By Terry. Any other questions, discussion?
I have a question, Heather.
Sure, go ahead, Dan.
Jared, who did you mean by a designee, and why would we need one?
If for some reason the business administrator and the superintendent is taking vacation at the same time, they might elect a assistant superintendent to accept that bid.
Is that the only person? Because don't forget, a designee can be anybody.
I leave it to the superintendent and business administrator to choose their appropriate proxy to make those decisions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Ellen?
Could I hear, I thought I heard the motion to receive the bids,
No, to accept.
No, to accept.
To accept.
to accept bids,
Commodity bids.
commodity bids. Is that the same as determining who we give it to?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion with a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Heather, yes. Motion passed. Next.
And then the last one is the ability, again, that same authorization on capital project bids. So I will share with you that I am going to rebid the MVMS irrigation system, and we might be in a position to once again bid out on the cistern type project, and that would happen during the summer.
So I'll need a motion.
Oh, no, I'm gonna let Dan do this one.
All right, Dan.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, has the board authorized a certain dollar amount for those particular projects yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Or are we talking about any project, or?
The board authorized $40,000 for the MVMS irrigation system, and I believe it was $75,000 for the cistern project.
Okay, and so you would be acting upon bids based on those dollar amounts?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll need a motion. Dan, do you want to do that motion?
I will just make a motion that we allow the business, we allow administration to, under normal circumstances, to act upon capital project bids during the summer months, the way they normally do it.
All right, thank you, Dan. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Jared, second. Any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
I'll abstain.
Ellen's abstaining. Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. So we have one abstention. All right, we already did the suicide. Now you're set, right, Scott? Okay.
I hope.
I know you had a lot tonight.
There was a lot, yeah.
All right, so now we're into board authorization request. I need a board motion is needed to grant continued authorization to the superintendent under the superintendent's emergency operations plan for COVID-19 as a temporary regulation to policy EBCF, pandemic epidemic emergencies, and to grant the superintendent or his designee authorization to respond at his or her discretion to changing public health circumstances, and to allow the superintendent the ability to modify or adapt school policy as needed until the next successful school board meeting.
So moved.
By Ellen, do I have a second?
Second.
By Shane. I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed. Next one is a board motion to grant the business administrator authorization to make payments out of sequence and to notify the board of such payments at the next scheduled school board meeting.
So moved.
By Ellen, do I have a second? By Shane. Do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed. All right, school staffing.
Okay, we have kind of a long sheet this evening, but everyone should have it. So I'm going to talk about the top of the sheet, and then I'll talk about the bottom of the sheet after. First, for notification only, no action required by the board. We have a teacher assignment change. Kendra Tisbert moving from Glen Lake to Mountain View as a special education teacher. And we have a track change. Congratulations to Christina Lamson at Maple Ave. It says X to X, but I believe I read that she's moving from masters to, from bachelor's 15 to masters. And Mrs. Johnson is nodding her head, so I think I remembered that accurately. For your approvals, we have a couple of resignations this evening. We have Kim Ackles, resignation, Glen Lake and Bartlett, Shelley Gordon from Bartlett, Kayla Nault from Mountain View, and John Webb. And I would just share with the board, I know a lot of you probably know Mr. Webb. Mr. Webb has been here for over 20 years, and he has gotten a new position as the Director of School Counseling at Oyster River High School. So I'm sad to lose John. He's a very, very good man. He's been here for a long time, but I'm really happy that he's moving into an administrative role. So congratulations to John, and sad to lose those other folks, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Do you need
All
a
right, so-
motion to accept that?
Yeah, let's do the
I'll
resignations.
move that we accept the resignations as presented.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second? By Shane. Do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes.
So for teacher nominations, your school administrators have been busy. Mrs. Berry has been busy as well, doing final interviews. We have a number of teacher nominations, and this is my opportunity to really not do people's last names justice, but I will do my best. Rochelle Eck as a kindergarten teacher at Glen Lake. Catherine D. Chirico, elementary ed teacher, Maple Ave. Amanda Harding, speech and language pathologist, woohoo.
Wow.
Christy Towns, special ed teacher at Maple Ave. Robert Glenn, special ed teacher at Mountain View. David Sealer, math teacher at Mountain View. And Denise Fall, school counselor at Goffstown High School.
I'll move to approve the teacher nominations as presented.
Thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shane. All right, do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes.
And the last one for your approval as an SSS, which is Student Support Specialist position, is Molly Brown as a Speech and Language Pathologist Assistant at Bartlett Elementary School.
I'll move that we approve the SSS nomination as presented.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second? By Ginny. I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes.
Okay, and moving on to the bottom of the staffing sheet, and board members have a memorandum in your packets. Mr. Cloutier and Mrs. O'Brien, I believe Mr. Gross has emailed this document to you. So this was not part of the original board packet, but you should both have this as well. What we have here is a number of requests for new positions. And I'd like to start by giving a little context. You heard a very detailed, informative presentation from Mrs. Berry and her team regarding how are our students doing and how do we know. And one of the things that we went into that presentation was to look with a great deal of authenticity and honesty at where our kids find themselves at this stage of the pandemic. And we know that we have unfinished learning. We know that we have some areas in mathematics that came out lower than we anticipated. We have work to do. I think that math is probably the hardest subject that students could learn in a remote or a hybrid environment. Mathematics instruction requires a lot of guided practice and teacher support for kids to learn concepts. So we know that next year we need to provide additional time, we need to provide tutoring, we need to provide enhanced mental health services. We can't look at our services as replacement. We need to give kids extra doses of support and not have them miss the core instruction. And for some students, we need to focus on enrichment and acceleration. We will continue to use research to guide our decision making. And one of the things that you heard during Mrs. Berry's presentation was Mr. Farley reported to you that this year we administered more AP tests than we ever had in history. And I think that that's encouraging. I think for our college-bound students, that's a fantastic milestone that we've achieved. But the series of positions that I'm requesting for next year are focused on kids who will need extra support. They will need remediation. They will need enhanced social emotional supports. So I'd like to go through and give you an overview of the increases that we are recommending, as well as the funding sources. So I will read this for any viewers at home who don't have the luxury of seeing the handout that I have in my hand. So new position requests for the FY22 school year are as follows. We have enhanced time for the administrative assistant at Maple Ave who is supporting special education. This is a move from part-time to full-time. This will be funded through the IDEA grant, which is the Special Education Individuals with Disabilities Education Act grant. This position has to do with providing support right now. We have a lot of special education students, and invariably, without having a full-time person to support those educators and those families, you end up having inefficiencies that you have people like Mrs. Johnson as our assistant principal, special ed facilitator, or teachers, professional staff that are spending time doing things like filing and paperwork and copying, and that's just really not effective. We need our special ed teachers to be focused on providing services to students and not providing that administrative assistance support. So we'd like to increase that from part-time to full-time. The next position is a special education teacher at Bartlett. We have continued to see numbers that fluctuate at Bartlett. Numbers go up, numbers go down, the numbers are up. So we're anticipating 59 students next year, so we need an additional special education teacher. We are looking to use ESSER 3 funds to pay for that. So this will not be added to the budget. We would pay for this out of ESSER 3. And I do want to remind the board, I think I've mentioned this previously, for this ESSER 3, we are required to spend 20% of that grant on remediation. So this would fit within that requirement. So we would look to do this for next year with a reevaluation for the year following. The next position is an elementary curriculum coach. And this one is going to take a little bit of explanation. This is something that I have wanted to do for a number of years. And we had planned this year when we were going through the budget process. This was a position that I asked Mrs. Berry to do a job description back in the fall. I asked her to include it in the budget, and then I cut it out of the budget. She was a little dismayed by that, but I told her I have a plan and to be patient, and that the full extent of the plan will be revealed. And essentially what I'm looking to do for this will be a teaching position. This will not be an administrative position. And this position will come from repurposing of a vacant teaching position here at Goffstown High School. In looking at anticipated course numbers for next year, I asked Mrs. McCann to identify one position that we could leave vacant to fill this role, and that's what the high school has done. Let me give a little more context for this position because this is new. This would be someone who, and actually if you look at the summary that we wrote, I think this says it all. This new position will provide support and coaching to enhance teaching pre-K through 4th grade. The coach will assist teachers with the instructional delivery of our core reading and math programs. In working with administration, the curriculum coach will provide support in teachers' use of data to derive instructional outcomes. The curriculum coach will work directly with teachers to review and enhance lessons by providing support, modeling, and feedback directly to teachers. The curriculum coach will provide opportunities for teachers to provide acceleration for above-level learners. So when we think about students who need remediation or enrichment, I see this position as being someone who can help fill that role in a post-pandemic world. So if I have this curriculum coach position, it could be that he or she is designing lessons for enrichment that can be pushed out to all elementary classrooms, and it's not an additional burden on the classroom teacher. So think about this as it's not an administrative position. This is someone who's hip to hip, working directly with our elementary teachers and helping and supporting and coaching them. So think about an expert teacher who's working with people who might not be at that same level of proficiency. That's what we're looking to do with the elementary curriculum coach. The next position is a position that Mrs. Kohler had requested during the budget process. So Mrs. McKinnon often asks the question, what did you ask for that bulky cut out? Here it is. Yeah. This is one that Mrs. Kohler asked for, and I cut it out, and I told her, be patient because I think we will be able to fund this using grant money, and that's precisely how we're looking to fund this. So for the middle school counselor position, we are looking to use our ESSER 3 funds, and this would allow Mountain View to have a dedicated school counselor for each grade level. Right now we have 5th and 6th grade sharing a school counselor. We know this to be true. There has never been more of a need to provide social emotional supports than there is right now, and that will continue into next year. So this position will be directly attached to that. Dan, do you have a question?
Dan has 2 questions.
Go ahead, Dan.
On the last one, the school counselor, how does the projected total cost less than the projected salary?
Because one of the jobs is currently vacant, Dan?
Yeah.
So the cost is based upon that number above, 82,674. Because the current part-time job is vacant, that offsets the total cost by, the difference.
So we had a position that was a part-time school counselor that was filled by Beth Coyle, and Mrs. Kohler, so this year Mrs. Coyle has resigned. She's moving to Arizona, and we had discussed with Wendy that we would take that half a position and put it towards this position. So it will come out of ESSER 3, but there's a little bit of district money that we had available as well. Scott, is that clear?
I specifically asked Kate this question because
Okay.
I knew Dan was gonna ask.
But it had to do with that Beth Coyle position.
It is, so it's an unfilled position that's offsetting the total cost, so, yeah.
And the last one,
Did you have another question, Dan?
I actually did,
Okay.
and asking me to think of I think it's the elementary coach as non-administrative is a stretch for me. Not that I'm opposed to how you're going to use it, but if that would be the case, then I don't know what an administrative position is versus, because it's more like a teacher, I suppose, but it's an administrator helping teachers,
the big difference,
helping
Dan,
kids.
the big difference in this, Dan, is the model that we're bringing forth. This position would not evaluate teachers. So only administrators would evaluate teachers. So instead of it being evaluative, we would look at this as support, coaching, helping raise someone's practice up. So again, if you think about an expert elementary teacher, it could be that the coach is going to go in and teach a lesson and say, I'm going to show you a technique of how I do small group instruction during this part of the lesson, and this is something that if you could continue to enhance your own practice. So Dan, think non-evaluative and more coaching support and raising someone's current level of practice.
Would the individual have any kind of authority over the teacher?
The person would be the peer of a teacher. So
okay.
they would not have authority over the teacher. And there are two reasons for this type of model. The first is we wanted it to be purely a coach who is someone who is trying to help support and enhance professional practice, and not have it be someone who is a supervisor, someone who is just evaluating them. So it's kind of a different philosophical approach to that.
I would agree. Thank you. I think that helps.
And then
with the mindset.
The last one, again, this is one where I thought really hard about how can we support kids and families who don't have other support services like special education or 504. So right now, if we have kids that need additional support, those types of supports typically will fall on your school counselors. It might fall on your school administrators. So I wanted to create a new administrative position as a dean of remediation and acceleration. And this new administrative position will focus on remediation and enrichment for students post-pandemic. This position will provide direct and indirect evidence-based supports and services to at-risk students and their families. The dean will work directly with students and their families who have been identified as needing additional supports, but currently are not receiving additional support services such as special education or 504. The dean will oversee supplemental tutoring services as well as additional counseling services during the FY22 school year. The dean will work closely with the elementary curriculum coach and the curriculum coordinators to provide acceleration opportunities for above-level learners. The dean will oversee the Goffstown High School Alternative Education Program and provide supervision and administrative support. So Dan, this one is an administrative position, and this is something, again, using ESSER 3 funds that I wanted to target. We have a lot of supports and services for our high-achieving kids. Think about small classes, think about advanced placement courses. I wanted to provide more of an umbrella support service for our at-risk students. So these would be students who might be at risk of dropping out. These could be students that have outside services such as counseling. It could be juvenile probation and parole officers. They could be involved in the criminal justice system. Kids that need extra help that right now we might try to piece together as best we can. I wanted to have more dedicated support who could help those kids directly, provide direct services, as well as almost like case management to some of these at-risk kids. And I think we have a lot of kids that fall into this. And as an outcome of the pandemic, I don't know whether I would recommend this position beyond 1 year, but I would see this as being laser focused on at-risk kids that our school counselors and administrators would say, this student, this family needs additional supports, and to have someone who would provide that assistance.
Go ahead, Dan.
And these positions are school year positions.
They're all school year position. The Dean of Remediation would be a few extra days, Dan. It would be a 200-day contract as opposed to a 186-day teacher contract.
Okay.
And the dean,
Thank you.
yeah, the dean would have additional responsibilities. Right now, some of the things that we might add aren't entirely in play yet. But for example, next year we will have a comprehensive and robust tutoring program that will provide after-school, in-person and or virtual tutoring. This person would oversee and coordinate all of those services. So I think that as we get up and running, I think that there are a lot of additional layers of support right now that we could provide to kids with this position.
So I saw Ellen and then Shane's hand. So go ahead, Ellen.
I'm really glad to see this service being made available at least through next year. It greatly needed, I'm pretty sure. The, where to go? The coach position, I worked with that before as a teacher part of it. Is this optional for teachers or going to be required of teachers?
I would say likely both. So the position may not be evaluative,
Right.
but if, for example, Mrs. Johnson is here, if Mrs. Johnson identified through the supervision and evaluation process that a teacher could benefit from this particular service,
Okay.
it might start as, I'd really like you to think about inviting the coach in to help with this math lesson,
Yeah.
but it could progress to the point that you will work with the coach.
Yeah, as needed
So
through that, correct?
administrative directives could be part of this.
Okay, but primarily for the general.
Yeah,
teacher,
this is about giving a high-end teacher the ability to get out there and instead of teaching full-time themselves, to help work with teachers to enhance their overall practice.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, Shane.
Thank you. My question's in relation to the Dean of Remediation. Brian, you answered my question. I was gonna ask if it was a 1-year position, because I saw the ESSER funds. But I would like to see it be a more than 1-year position. I don't think these needs are going anywhere. I think they're gonna get worse as time goes on, just in what I've seen in my 10 years in education. So I think although we're funding with ESSER or we want to fund it with ESSER for the coming year, I think that's a position that we probably want to keep.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Shane. And I think when I say we're going to fund it for 1 year, we would have the capacity within the grant to fund it with a second fiscal year, or it would allow us the opportunity to build it into the budget. But I think because it's new, I want to see how things go. I want to get it into play, and then that would allow us to either budget for it or add additional time through the grant process. But, you know, I think that if you understand the concept that we provide a lot of supports to our college-bound kids, I think that we need to do more for some of our at-risk kids. And the other thing that this position will give us is right now our off-site alternative ed program. We have a site that we rent from New England Sheet Metal that's down past the hardware store. We have not run that program in its traditional form this year because of COVID. That program will reopen, but that program has never had ongoing direct administrative oversight. So Mrs. Lewis, who was here earlier, kind of had a heavy role in overseeing, but there had been times where there were things that occurred. I go over to the alt ed program and deal with them. Mr. McBride does. It's kind of been oversight by committee. And this position I would likely house out of the alt ed program. So it's somebody who is a full-blown administrator who's on site, who's able to help get that program back up and running. And the other thing that I'd like to do, Shane, is we have been talking for a number of years about expanding the alt ed support down to middle school kids, 8th graders in particular. And we've talked about a lot of things, we've considered options, we've never gotten it off the ground. And I want to make that part of it, is we have space, we have a nice space that we lease from the New England Sheet Metal Company, but we're not using that space after a certain time in the day. So we could almost have like a second shift. If we think differently about the time of the school day, we could provide more support to more kids who need it. So I think that, this is kind of an innovative way to think differently about how we're providing supports to some of our most at-risk kids.
And those are all awesome ideas, and I think that, again, you're just showing why this should be a more than 1 year position. And I think hopefully moving forward it will be, because that was all great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Jared?
So just to build off this, because I like where Shane was going, the request that you're asking for is the approval of these positions for one academic year with this funding source. We're not necessarily looking to build it into the budget at this time as new proposed spending.
I would say
At
yes,
this time, at this
yes,
point.
but, and let me just clarify by position. So the special ed administrative assistant, that would be moving on in perpetuity, because that would be a grant-funded position. So that position, if you approve it, would continue, but it would continue to have portions of it paid for by the grant. So that would continue.
So if I may, just on that particular aspect, so when we go through the budgeting process in September, would that line item and this position show as new proposed spending?
No.
Or it would show as default spending?
It would show as default spending because the additional time is being paid for by the IDEA grant.
Okay.
So Jared, at the budget table, you wouldn't see any change for that position.
Well, we would, and it's going to bring up a question, just because I know the people that are on the budget committee, when they see the increase, and they ask specifically, are there additional roles that we've put into the pipeline? They are going to ask that question.
Sure, well, and I'll be at the table with you.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we are prepared for that.
But the increase for that one will be paid for by the IDEA grant.
Yeah.
The special ed teacher, this is one that I will likely build into the FY23 budget. These needs are not going away. So I would anticipate bringing forth the next budget. This position will likely be included in that budget. So it would be a 1 year position through ESSER 3, but then it would change into a district funded position if the school board approves it, if the budget committee approves it, and if the voters approve it. The elementary coach, this one would continue because this is a general funded position. So if you approve the position request this evening, this one would continue because it's already a budget supported position. Where you would see this, Jared, is you would see it as a transfer from one building to another. So the overall delta would not increase, but it would go down at the high school and it would increase at the elementary level. The school counselor position, this is one that I'm not ready to commit to it right now, but in all likelihood, this would be also a budget increase. I think that Mrs. Kohler's rationale for this made all the sense in the world to me. I supported the position. I just wanted to think about an alternative way to fund it, which is what we did. So that one likely would move into the budget as well. And then the Dean of Remediation would not, but I would likely look to fund it a second year using ESSER 3 funds. So that's the short version is they're not all the same, and hopefully that explanation just clarifies that.
So specifically for the ones that are listed as ESSER 3 grant fundings, is that going to show up as existing default budget items?
No.
Or that would show up as new proposed spending?
That would show up as new proposed spending.
So, okay.
Those would absolutely be, because Jared, I've never taken, there are some school districts that would do that because they paid for it with a grant 1 year. They would say it's an existing position, therefore it's in default. I take a more purist view that was not approved by the voters, and as such, it would show up as new spending. So whether it's the Bartlett position or the school counselor, those would be new spending beyond default.
No, thank you. That will help us in the future.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right. Oh, sorry, Ellen, go ahead.
It's okay, just real quick.
Yeah.
As we move through the next year with the Dean of Remediation and acceleration, could we, if the board's interested, I know I'd be very interested to know exactly what that person, as they go through the year, what they've addressed.
Sure.
The magnitude of the needs of our children, nothing confidential, but just how much and at what levels the needs were there and this person fulfilled those needs. We're talking at-risk kids. I'm thinking probably middle school and high school more than elementary.
Probably, but
Probably.
I would not limit it, that there
Okay.
could be elementary families
Yeah,
that
right.
might need support that the dean could also provide.
Right, and I know I see a need in public education for a lot of support for way too many children. And when I say support, I'm not talking special ed and 504. I'm talking about everybody else, including them. I think maybe having a record of just how many people and for what reasons this position has addressed and the outcome of that interaction and those efforts.
Yeah, I think that's a
for our
great,
kids.
great request, and we're happy to
Okay.
do that.
If the board is in agreement, I know I'd
Yep.
really
I like
like
that
to hear about it.
Yep.
Heather,
Oh,
you got a minute?
yep, hang on, yeah, go ahead, Janelle, hang on one second, MC. Go ahead, Janelle.
I was just saying, I feel like a C&E presentation is brewing here. It sounds like some of these physicians sound like, they're addressing such great needs that maybe getting a report next year, kind of how it's going, how the remediation is going. Some of these other physicians are helping our students. Sounds very interesting.
Agreed. I think that's a very good request.
Thank you, Janelle. MC, I saw your hand, come on up.
So Ellen, typically, when we write a grant activity, we also have to put in there outcomes and performance measures. So as part of anything that's involved with ESSER 3, I would assume that we're going to have to put exactly those same pieces in there. So the person who's in that role will be providing information to the superintendent, and then it would be very likely that that person could quite easily come and present data in those pieces as well.
Thank you, MC. All right, any other questions, comments before, if we're good with this, to make a motion to move to accept these, right? You need that.
Yes, please.
I'll move to accept the new positions as requested and presented.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Do I have a second? By
I'll
Ginny?
second.
Do I have any other discussion or do roll call? Seeing none, I'll do Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yeah.
Ellen?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. Motion passed. Thank you. That was a lot.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, so the next is other business that may legally come before the meeting. Anything? No? All right, so we do have non-public, we do not have A, we do not have C, but we do have K. So, we're in a good spot. So I'm gonna make a motion to go into
Do we
non-public.
also have L?
Nope.
Nope, that was when our lawyer was here. She's
Oh,
not here.
okay, I'm sorry.
RSA 91-A, semicolon 32K, which is consideration by school board of entering into a student or pupil tuition contract authorized by RSA 194 or RSA 195A. I'm not gonna read the whole thing.
So moved.
By Ellen. Do I have a second?
Thanks, Scott.
Second? Oh, Retta, sorry. I'll do roll call. Retta?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Janelle?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And Heather, yes. So we're in non-public. We'll take a 5-minute break while GTV breaks down.